Morning, guys. Hope everyone's having a good morning so far. And let me know in the chat where you're calling from because I see a lot of new faces. So I would love to know where you're at, what type of Senja user you are, whether you're on the free plan, you're on a paid plan. So that way I can speak very directly to the features that are available to you. And what was the other question I was going to ask you guys? I have some questions as we go, but there's a lot to unpack, especially as service-based businesses. And so this is going to be a really great call to get you guys going. Matt, you're in Boise. Love that. Are you a kit user? Did you go to Craft and Commerce? I did not this year, but I feel like everyone keeps forcing my hand to go. So I think next year I'm going to be going. Annie, you're in Asheville. I love that you're a current affiliate. Matt, also, who else is in here? Sorry guys, I am on my teleprompter, so everything is like this big in the call, and I have old lady eyes. So Giovanni, Matt, Misty, would love to hear from you guys. And Andrea, it's so good to see you. Matt, you didn't go. Yeah. Amazing. You're also a paid user. Cool. This is also not my product, guys. I'm just on the team, kind of, which we'll talk about here in a second as well. But I want to give everybody a chance to kind of come in. I also am slightly losing my voice. So I swear I'm not a chain smoker. We're just here. We're rocking and rolling. And hopefully, as my grandmother says, it will get better before I get married. We also have Diesel on the ground today, and he is a little antsy, so you might hear his nails just like doing whatever dogs do. So okay, amazing. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started, and then, as people trickle in, we will get going. But thank you, dude. You got to lay down. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's call. If you RSVP'd, but you have no idea why we're here, we are going to be talking specifically about client offboarding and incorporating Senja into that to more easily collect testimonials, build case studies, and just really keep that funnel going in your business. And so, if we have not met yet, my name is Sarah. I own the consultancy systems. That's probably how you have come across me online. I also am a Notion Solutions partner. There's 56 of us in the world. So really cool accolade there to say. But from the Senja perspective, I have in a fractional capacity joined Senja and doing a variety of projects to help Ollie really launch Senja 2.0. And one of our primary focuses is building out the affiliate program. And so really making this more of a partnership, more of a community in the ways that it's not just share a link, get a couple of bucks in your pocket, but really helping you maximize content, share it with your audience, and also step into this role that I am doing right now, which is leading webinars and creating content alongside of us. And so this series is actually a new monthly series that I am launching. And hi, Miss. My other dog has decided to join our webinar as well. But yeah, so the affiliate webinar series, it's my goal with this series to get you guys into the seat that I am sitting in, teaching our audience what your own expertise is and how you use Senja to do it. And so I put out an open call on this month's affiliate newsletter. So if you're interested in hosting a paid webinar with Senja, it is paid. Please reply to that newsletter. If you didn't get the newsletter, please let me know so I can make sure that you are on the email list. But that email goes out monthly, and it just kind of talks about, ways to use Senja and make more money, upcoming events, new features, product updates, all of those things. So it is a private one-to-one newsletter. It doesn't go out to all audiences. But alongside of the work at Senja and consulting, I also run a couple in-person communities here in Austin. That's where I'm based in Texas. So I run a YouTuber community. I run a silent co-working club. And I just love building human connection. I think that that is something that's going to be a consistent theme through our conversation today. But I think in the world of continuing AI and automations, everyone I feel like is kind of taking the wrong approach with it, that there's this like underlying need for AI because you can work less in a day. And I really take the perspective of using AI, using automations, using software to allow you to free up time so you can build better relationships, not only with your clients, but with your audience, your community, whether that's on LinkedIn, on YouTube, an in-person thing you're doing through Luma. And so everything that I do within my business really is the bottom line of building experience and building connection. And so, one of the ways to do that is through offboarding, which we'll talk about. But before we do, I would love to know, how often are you actually collecting testimonials during offboarding? So, you can reply in the chat, let me know, often, every time, maybe not as much as you hope you should. But I really just want to know kind of where we're at in terms of friction from everybody here. And I can say, before I really implemented the workflow that I'm going to share here in a little while, or rather, next slide, pretty much, I had a lot of confidence issues. I think sharing this and giving you guys some context. I've been freelancing, consulting, advising for about 7 years now. I've been doing business development for over 10. But for me, I was very not confident in my offboarding process with my clients. And I'll tell you why. I think it's because it's really easy for somebody to say, "Oh my God, I love your work," right? But then they're sharing the work, but they're not tagging you. They're not talking about you in their content that has to do with whatever work you did. They're not giving you your flowers, so to speak. And I'm not saying that as a service-based business that we're required to be given flowers publicly. But I think seeing how people used my work after we were done, all of that really kind of got in my head for a while of like, ooh, did people actually like working with me? Or did I just check a box and I gave them what they need and they moved on and really didn't think about it too much? And so until I really built this process out, I really was like so up and down about collecting testimonials. And even at that point, it was like, oh God, I hope they give me a good testimonial, right? And I hope I get more than just like, Sarah's the best, 10 out of 10 recommend, right? Like that doesn't give us any kind of context into using this work in the future, right? And like we know the hard work that we do. We know, all the blood, sweat, tears, endless nights, whatever that looks like to get a project done. But it's hard to have a case study that has all that data and then have like a very basic testimonial, right? And so, what I want to talk about, and Annie shared in the chat, that even though she's new to Senja, by implementing Senja, this is going to help her implement getting testimonials better and more often. So that's really great. And I think that's the bottom line, right? Is utilizing a tool to help you do something better is the best way to go about it. But you need the data first. Okay. So this is my offboarding process, the quote unquote systems way. So my offboarding process is probably going to look different than your offboarding process. There's no right or wrong way to collect offboarding. And after I go into detail here, I'm also going to share a client process for somebody that I helped build out. And then we're going to go over some pro tips as well for how you can use this after the fact alongside built-in features within Senja. So I do want to preface this and give you guys a little bit of backstory of my offers. So I have one core offer. Yes, Matt, you can definitely get a copy of the slide deck. I will send that with the recording after this for sure. So I have one main offer. It's called an assessment, and every client has to go through it. I don't custom write proposals. I don't do any of that. Like below my pay grade at this point. Like I guess you could say I'm productized to an extent, but I just have a very specific funnel. I don't do implementation unless you go through strategy first, right? So my offboarding is custom to each specific offer and product within my business. And why I do that is because your data, the data you collect from your clients, is the most important data you could ever get in your business. I don't care how many likes you're getting on LinkedIn. I don't care how many views you're getting on YouTube. This is the one specific time of any of your processes that will actually move the needle in your business. You can put that on my headstone. You can take that to my grave. I believe that so strongly because you can ask very specific questions regarding the product, the offer, the service that somebody bought. So like I mentioned, this is my funnel. So project gets completed. Basically, people go through strategy with me. I put together this insane report. I do this like visual mapping in Miro, and I send this like one pager in Notion, right? That is what they purchased from me. So by me sending the deliverables, that is technically the end of the project. There's no feedback loop, there's no revisions, none of that happens in this offer. And so the second I send those deliverables, it's considered done, which means I put all of those clients into an offboarding funnel. And I use Flowdesk for emails. I've been with them since they launched. I'm like first 200 users of Flowdesk. Like I'll never leave. The tool works for me, right? So I have a sequence that I put every client within this specific offer. Again, remembering there is a sequence for every single product and offer in my business. It's all standalone. And so I tag them in Notion, and that's my CRM. I tag them in Notion. And then from there, I basically it goes through Zapier, which adds them to the funnel in Flowdesk. And what it does is it sends them a initial email requesting feedback on the offer. And I have a little bit of a delay. So the sequence, they get added in and it waits 2 days because that kind of seems to be the average time that it takes somebody to actually review the work that I gave them. So keeping in mind, like, you don't want to throw everything at everyone all the time, right? You really want to be mindful of how long it takes them to ingest what you've done, and really just like make sure that when you are asking for data back, that they've had a chance to debrief in their own mind and can actually give you unbiased feedback, and really detail things out. So enter this form. The first email is going to be a feedback form to say, hey, would love to know what it was like working with me. And this is very specific data that I ask so I can tweak my offer. So did you feel like the 5-hour strategy session was too much? Do you feel like I asked the right questions? Do you feel like I included your team appropriately, right? I ask very, very specific questions. And they're all 1 to 5 ratings. So this allows me to say like, okay, I'm doing this really well. This could use a little bit of tweaking. And in that form, I do this piece in Paperform, just so you guys know, because Paperform allows for the conditional routing, and it just like, I like their analytics and things like that. And so if they respond with that 1 to 5 rating, anything under a 3, it actually populates another question that says like, hey, why? Like, why did you give a low score, right? So then based on how many of those questions they answered 3 and above, it then requests a testimonial because one, there's 2 kind of paths actually with this. So the first thing is like, if a client is genuinely not happy, I don't want to ask them for a testimonial because they're not going to give one. Okay. Or they're going to give one that's like one of those really shitty Yelp reviews that you're like, oh my God, like I'm not going to publish this publicly. And we have the authority to do that in Senja, in all of your forms. Like, you have the ability to hide testimonials that aren't good, right? And so what I do normally, if a client like out of the blue just gives me horrible feedback, I will actually just book a call with them and say, hey, like, I really just want to talk through this because this was not the vibe you were giving throughout the project. Like, let's like end on a high note. And a lot of the times, clients who give bad feedback, you have to also like make sure you're reading the whys, but sometimes it'll be things that were like, the scheduling just didn't work out, or, we couldn't articulate what we wanted and we feel like we didn't give our all in this. And there's been a couple of clients where I have actually turned around and redone work for because they didn't realize how much more they could have given me. And you can only ask for so much, right? So you can kind of take that with a grain of salt. But if there's a certain number of 3 and above on those ratings, it automatically redirects to collect that testimonial. And I prefer video, but most of my clients prefer text testimonials, and it just is what it is. But I've kind of started re-implementing something, which we'll talk in a second, to get video in a different way. So after I get all of that, if you guys follow my content on YouTube or wherever, you know that I live and breathe by my postmortems for all my projects. So I do not look at this feedback immediately the second I get it. I review all feedback kind of every 6 weeks on these forms, on these feedback forms, these offboarding forms, and I kind of group them all together. And I do an internal postmortem on every project. And I have a review Notion doc that I go through. I'm happy to send it to you if you're interested. But it basically goes through like, what were the red flags? What were the green flags? Was this an ideal client? It's basically like 20 questions that I go through every single project. And I have done this for probably 5 years now. And it's a lot, but it gives me a lot of good data to know, okay, I should be looking for these types of clients more. I should be, connecting with these people on a deeper level. So then, and this kind of circles through, but I also, with every single client, do a 60-day catch-up call. Now, this is another opportunity to collect additional testimonials from your clients. So this call is actually booked like at the beginning of projects with me. So just know that this is kind of like a continued process. But what I do, and in my work doing operations, doing strategy, there is so much that happens after the fact, right? That if you are asking for a testimonial 5 days after working with someone, chances are the work you did hasn't had time to really like set in, to see the reaction from it, to see the implications. What did I just say? The implications from it. I can't talk today. I'm so sorry. So what I do with all my clients is when they onboard, they also get to schedule a 60-day catch-up call. And it's very low lift. Okay. But what I do in this call is I ask, how has the work been since we worked together? Have you implemented things? Have you, realized like, oh, we need to tweak this or we need to tweak that, right? Two things. The first is that this allows me to repitch work. Okay. This is like not even to do with testimonials, but like obviously if like the client went well, like you should be repitching them probably if possible. And so this allows me to get an idea of like, oh, I can pitch them for XYZ to actually do the tweaks or add on or whatever. It also too allows me to really know like the impact of my work, that it went well and people are happy with it after the fact, right? So again, time has lapsed. Are they still happy with the work that they paid for? And then 3, I use this call very selfishly for 7 degrees of separation, basically. So we are all 7 degrees separated. And so a great example of this is when it was like right before COVID. No, it actually was like at the height of COVID, right in early 2020. I worked with the San Antonio Holocaust Museum, and we basically had to digitize all of their curriculum because the museum was shut down because of COVID, right? And I loved that project. Creating a digital museum online was one of the funnest things I have ever done in my life. But also context, I have a degree in public history. I thought I was going to work at the Smithsonian. Like that was my dream. Okay. So doing a project that was like a childhood interest was very fun to me. And so because I enjoyed that project, I go into these calls and say, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so at the Holocaust Museum in Miami? Because everyone is 7 degrees separated, I utilize this call to ask for intros and more work in the future. Okay. And so it's kind of like a give back. Like I did all this work for you. Yes, you paid me, but like, let's keep this relationship going and please introduce me to your inner circle. So that's kind of how I frame this call. And Usually I don't record it, but if they start giving me good feedback on that step 2 of like, hey, this was really good. We loved this piece. I will have them pause and just be like, hey, can I record this so I can capture it and use it as a testimonial? Because anytime you're having conversations with people, just ask. Don't just like assume people want their faces recorded. Don't just assume they want their video recorded. But just, be mindful and be like, hey, this is great content. Like, I know that other people are probably going to have maybe questions on if this will do this for them. And the fact that you're saying that it did, like, please let me use this. So that's the way that I use my 60-day catch-up call to get additional testimonials. I've also had a couple of calls where they've previously submitted a testimonial and maybe it like wasn't super in depth, but now in this call, they're giving me so much more. And I'll just be like, hey, like, can I edit this testimonial? Can we add to it, etc. So you can always reconnect with your clients and get the data that you need. Okay. Like, just because you've offboarded a client, just because the invoice has been paid, doesn't mean that it's like done and you just quit talking to them. Okay. So that's kind of the first thing. So let's talk in a real life example. So I actually work with a lot of production studios. I don't know how this has become a client base of mine, but I absolutely love them. I love working with video studios, with production studios. And this workflow, very specifically, this production studio films documentaries. So keep that in mind. They're already very video heavy. But what we did in this project was we actually the client had a lot of issues with scope creep and boundaries and just like projects kind of dragging on with no end in sight. And so we implemented an approval form, which then triggers all of the offboarding, kind of similar to what I do in my business. So the client receives their project files, then they get a feedback form, again, that rating system. And my client actually wants basic testimonials from them because based on the feedback and the testimonial and their internal postmortem, my client actually invites past clients for video case studies, and they actually go and film dedicated videos on site with the client to speak to the work that they've done. And in that, it's not just the client, but if they've interviewed someone for the documentary, and there was a lot of like scheduling, things like that, they will include those people into the case study as well, because my client, they handle all of that. They schedule all the interviewees, they schedule location, they're going full white glove here. And so for them, a written testimonial, like, yeah, it's fine. But because they do video and they're visual, they prefer video case studies and they make it an experience, not a reaction process. So hopefully that makes sense. Because for them as well, like, and I've seen a couple of these case studies since they started implementing them, they also include B-roll from the documentary that they filmed. So it's not just, somebody sitting at their computer and saying, oh my God, I loved working with this person. They were so great, right? That's very informal and there's nothing wrong with it. But this client has a very specific brand, very specific, filter's not the word. How could we say it? Like a video style, right? And so anything that they post matches that style. And so it's very important for them to capture it in that way instead of asking people to just like record with their webcam. But again, nothing wrong with that. So how do we do this? So everything that I've kind of mentioned already, we want to be referring to our data. We want to put ourselves in the client's shoes and actually, let me backtrack. We want to put ourselves in the shoes of potential leads for our business to collect data from our current clients to answer questions that leads might have. So when you are collecting testimonials, especially within feedback of an offer, the one cool thing about Senja forms is like you can add as many questions as you want, get as many insights as you want. And so if you were to hire me, right, if I was sitting in a lead's shoes reading a sales page, I would want to know, what was the 60-day return? What was the biggest like unlock in strategy, right? What are the common things that Sarah fixes for her clients? And so as you are asking for feedback and testimonials, speak to those, ask those specific questions with your clients to have them answer so you can use them across the board and not just get Sarah was great, 10 out of 10 recommend, right? But really have them answer specific questions regarding your process, regarding your deliverables, regarding your product. I think it was office hours on Monday, the Senja office hours, that we were talking about, having a course and having a product. And when we think about the UI, we talked a lot about platforms in office hours of like, well, what platform would you pick? If you have an audience that maybe the digital divide is a little stronger, meaning people are maybe a little bit older or they are not as good at, kind of jumping into new software, that's a great question to ask for products as well is, hey, did you like that this course was on Teachable? Was it easy to navigate? Go to the modules, go to, this section or this section. Like, it's okay to ask specific questions and get the data you need in order to move your business forward. Because if 10 people out of 12 say the UI was really hard to navigate, okay, maybe it's time to look at a new platform, right? The same thing with my assessments. If multiple clients are saying, this full day of strategy is too much on our team, I'm going to start thinking about, okay, well, maybe I break it out where we do 2 hours on one day and 2 hours on the other. And that actually happened to me, believe it or not. I was doing this as a one day kind of like on site with my clients, and everyone was like, I'm so exhausted. I just don't normally think about things like this. This was a lot. And so now I do 2 days, and it's a 2-day on site. It's 2-hour commitment. And then we go on our way. And yeah, it kind of like it breaks it up, and you might be on a good roll and then you got to stop and wait a whole day to come back. But now I know, okay, I'm going to have these specific questions on day 1. I'm going to ask these specific questions on day 2. And I've been able to build a much more well-rounded strategy call experience that I wouldn't have known to do had I not been collecting this feedback. And so now I get feedback submitted that's like, we loved the strategy session. It allowed our team to learn more about roles that they don't normally interact with. They've learned more about our processes that they didn't know existed, right? And so all of that can be put on your sales page. You can use all of that in your marketing, but you have to ask. The next thing that I will say about the incorporating Senja forms is, I'm so sorry, guys. I keep the more I talk, the more I'm losing my voice. I know I sound like a chain smoker. I'm so sorry. But the next thing is making feedback and testimonials personal. I think that's one thing, that as service-based businesses, I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit for. That people, yes, are hiring the deliverable, but 90% of the time, it is 100% a vibe hire, right? You want to like the person you're working with. You want to feel like you're going to have that relationship with them. And obviously, we've talked about this across the board today. But for me, adding video into this offboarding process and speaking specifically like, hey, thanks so much for hiring me. Thank you so much for trusting in me. And thank you for taking the time now to give me this feedback, and recording a one-off video and putting it in here in your Senja form before they dive in really just amplifies the value and makes it feel less passive. I think that's the other thing, looking back at kind of where I started before I really built this process out for my business, is testimonials just felt like something I had to do. I really never felt like they had purpose other than, let me throw it on a sales page, right? But when you really start to think about what's in it for you and how you can maximize on that, all these doors open up. So I definitely recommend making sure that you add that human component into this process as well. And I do know that some people, obviously the Senja forms are going to be, you send it to everybody, whether it's a redirect after they, they sign your approval form, or you put it in an email welcome sequence. But I do also know some people, and now that my offers have kind of changed a little bit, I am considering testing this of sending a personal email or a personal video to every single client. I basically am only working with one client a month at this point. And so it's not difficult for me to kind of backtrack this sequence, make it a little less automated, make it a little more personal. So just something to think about. Okay. Matt said, quick question. Is Senja Forms included in our paid subscription or is it separate silo? No. So everybody has forms. So if you go into your Senja account and you go to, the way I have screen sharing, just bear with me a second. So in your forms, if you go under collect, there's just a tab that says forms. So that's all you do. And then you click create new. So everybody has access to this. There are some things within forms that vary between free and paid, but everybody has forms 100%. And then what was the other thing I was going to say with that? Yeah. And, and you can like duplicate them. You don't have to like create, so kind of what we were talking about before. Let me actually, let me change my screen share so you guys could see this really fast. So if we are, where are we at? Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. So I'm in Senja's account, right? So, you see all of these forms here. So as we talked about at the beginning, if you have multiple services and you figure out your cadence for your feedback survey, right? You want to create one form per offer. You can create the main one, just click duplicate and then just tweak it for the specific offer that it's at. You don't have to create custom every single time. And go from there. And then obviously making sure that you update the form so the ones that come through that form are tagged appropriately. We've talked about this actually in recent office hours too, is making sure that you create tags for every single offer that you have, every product that you have, and you're categorizing all the testimonials that way. So everything that comes through one specific form, you can make those edits there. So that way, all you have to do is look at the testimonials just for strategy or just for this course. Okay, let me go back and reshare. Okay, perfect. So the next thing that I want to talk about is all of the ways that you can, and actually I'm running a little behind, guys. I'm so sorry. We might be here the full hour. I never like to do that, but we are booked for an hour, so we're fine. I just made a promise at the beginning. I shouldn't have. But anyway, so once you collect all those testimonials, what do you do with them? So my favorite, honestly, I think, coolest feature of Senja is going to be the new case studies, turning testimonials into case studies rather, because it allows you to like not have to think about case studies anymore. I know that's something that we all as service-based businesses are like, fuck, I haven't updated my portfolio. Fuck, I need to do my case studies, right? And it's like, I can collect testimonials all day long, but what you do after is always the hardest, because the second a project ends, you're working on another one. And so incorporating Senja sharing into your process, whether that is on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, building in that routine cadence is going to be really important for maximizing what your clients have taken the time to share with you and utilizing it for future sales. So the new case study feature, if you haven't played with it, anytime you collect a testimonial in your proof tab in Senja, if you hover over the testimonial, there's a little pop-up button that says Magic Maker, which is how you get this pop-up on the left side that gives you all the options to either add to a wall of love, turn into the sizzle reel, which is brand new. And then obviously like sharing the link specifically. But the case study is an AI feature, which basically turns your testimonial into an AI, which is really cool. So with that, obviously you could then copy that entire case study, put it into your website, brand it however you want. You could also, at least for me, like I like to show screenshots and different things from projects if I can, depending on kind of the NDA there. And so you could take this and obviously build on top of that to make these case studies even better. But obviously like you can embed them directly and not even like have to copy paste them. But one of the things that I think kind of the next layer of these case studies that you can do for new leads to go into the cycle, into your sales cycle, is creating a lead funnel solely for case studies. Okay. So as a service-based business, I think that two things. One, 90% of the time, we think that our sales cycles are pretty simple, but for a lot of businesses, it actually is a very elongated process. So if we go back to the production studio that I shared, one of the things that we actually uncovered kind of in their initial assessment is that sorry guys, I just smacked my mic. Is that their sales cycle is actually a 6 to 9 month lead process. And so from the time that basically a client reaches out to the time that they're signing on the documentary project is literally 6 to 9 months. And so when we think about that, what are we doing with those clients that are just sitting in limbo? For me, I don't personally really have this problem because 90% of the time, like people just book me immediately because I do the type of work that's an immediate problem that needs an immediate solution. But for a lot of service-based businesses, that's not the case. Like I literally did a sales call with a copywriter yesterday because I'm reworking a sales page on my site. And, even then I'm like, well, this isn't really a rush. Like I'm booked out. Like this is a project I want done by the end of the year, but I am not personally in a rush. And I have very high feelings that the person that I had the sales call with probably gets this very often, that like sales pages are important, but they're not an immediate fire unless like maybe you're launching something and forgot to write the copy and you need something done ASAP. So what we should think about is one, like what is your lead and sales time? And if you have something that's longer, honestly, longer than like 2 weeks, I would put together a lead funnel. And so what I recommend, and we actually, again, built this for the studio that I worked with, is that all these case studies that they had, we basically created a 9 email sequence that goes out, sends once a month. And all it is a case study of a previous project that they worked on. And so when people basically submit an inquiry to work with them, they get automatically added to this funnel. And every month they get a case study sent to their inbox. I'm not talking newsletter. I'm not talking like, oh my God, click here to book a sales call. Like, you have 92 hours before this deal goes away. Like none of that crap. Okay. This is basically 100% just value proof of what it's like to work with them. And it was interesting because one of the questions that client asked me was like, well, what if they sign on in 3 months instead of, 9 months, like the average that we're building this out for? And all my response to that was like, okay, like they still get these case studies sent to them and it further validates the work that you're going to be doing for them. And so I would definitely recommend compiling these testimonials, compiling your case studies, and building out a funnel with them so they drive further leads. Even if you have like a lead magnet, right? That is a little bit more passive. Maybe, like I know, at least from my business, I have 2 very distinct audiences. A lot of freelancers are in my audience, and then ideal client, right? The freelancers are not going to be spending the $25K with me that I charge. And so what can I do to kind of keep them happy, know that like they downloaded this lead magnet, but they're not going to convert probably. What can I do to maybe meet them in the middle? This is a great way to do that. Also, people who may not be ready to work with me, but I still want to be top of mind. This is a great funnel to do that without so much pressure to have them book a sales call to sign on. You're just staying top of mind. And again, remember guys, this whole idea of the 7 degrees separation, if you're sending a case study, testimonial, validation once a month, they're going to know somebody who needs you. And so if you're popping in and you're constantly like popping into their mind, they're going to say, oh, hey, Annie, you need to work with Sarah, right? Like, hey, I just saw this cool thing. They're going to forward that email and be like, oh my God, weren't you just talking about this being an issue for you? You should connect with Sarah, right? So that's how these funnels really work. And I have seen, especially with my client that we built this out for earlier, it was like February, March, we did it. They have seen actually a decrease in their sales cycle timeline. And so on average, clients were signing on 9 months. We're now seeing an average of 7 months. And so because they were getting this validation and these emails sent to them, they're realizing like, oh, we need to get this booked in now. We need to get this project done. And so it kind of, not in a very direct way, adds this necessity and this push to actually get on a call and book the project. So just something to mull over. Okay, so Q&A time. So I would love to hear from you guys. Any questions that you have, you can drop them in the chat if you haven't already. I'm going to take a water break and then I'll start answering any questions that you guys have. And for anybody who doesn't have questions and want to pop, you're more than welcome to. I'll send out the recording. I'm also going to put this on my YouTube channel. I'll post this video up, so it'll go out on Monday publicly, but anybody who RSVP'd, you'll get the recording and things from me and the slide deck as well. So that is that. Okay, I'm going to scroll through, just see if there's any questions. Okay. Oh, and I guess we really didn't talk about the sizzle reel aspect too. So, if you are collecting video on Senja, video testimonials rather, you have the ability to use our new, what are we calling it? Magic video / sizzle reels. So basically anybody who creates or ships in video testimonials kind of gets dumped into this bucket now, where you can then go and type in and say, give me a sizzle reel based on my strategy sessions. And so everybody who has spoken specifically about the strategy sessions, it basically like compiles it all into one sizzle reel based on like how long you want it to be, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, etc. And so then you have this really cool sizzle reel of multiple people speaking highly of one specific piece of your process. Adam asked, could you briefly show how you change a testimonial into a case study? Totally. I will 1000% do that. Let me change my screen. Senja. Okay. So basically what you do, so if we are, where's my Senja tab? Here we go. Okay. Hopefully, yeah, you guys can see that. So if we go into our proof, and mind you, I am in Senja's account. We're not in my account. So you can see here, Andrew submitted a video testimonial. So if I go into Magic Maker, again, you're going to hover over that on any testimonial. Click Magic Maker. Clicked not on the actual button. And then you're going to click turn into a case study. And then AI is basically going to generate it. It's going to analyze it and turn it in. It's pretty quick. I think it takes like 30 seconds to a minute at most. So now you'll see we have a full testimonial of the basically speaking based on what Andrew submitted in his video testimonial. So again, remember, the more you're asking direct questions, the more that this specific tool is going to actually be useful to you and give you more context, right? So from here, Andrew talked about targeted marketing with Senja. He talked about the challenge of unlocking app store reviews and how Senja actually helped organize and curate all of those. So all of this is based on every single thing that he said in there. It's not creating, it's not like putting words in his mouth, right? But it may say, this allowed them to stay on top of their significant volume of app store reviews. Obviously, he said that, but it rewrote it into third person, right? So you can say, awesome, this is great. You can export it as a PDF. And then obviously the export is done. And then, you can share that PDF out. You can also just copy the text like this and paste it into the format that you want. And go that way. And then obviously you could select another testimonial if you wanted to just stay in this view instead of clicking out to each person. You can just click select another and go on your way. So that is that. Yeah, so hopefully that was helpful. I think that it can be so useful to utilize that because listen, I need to just share more. I need to share more case studies. We all do, right? But also I think it's interesting to look at the case studies from their perspective to go, oh, I didn't think to write the case study from this specific need or this specific angle, right? And so, I know for me, like when I write my case studies, I tend to just be like, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the software that we use to do it. And it's very like ABC. It's not, I am not an emotional girl. Okay. Like, let's just say, I think this is also like why I like this feature so much too. Like I'm a zeros and ones girly. I'm a data girly. Like I probably have I don't cry at movies, but like when Tony Soprano died, like I cried, right? I'm a fat Italian man at heart. Okay. It takes a lot to break me down. And so when it comes to copy, when it comes to sales, like I am just not that person. I don't do emotional sales well at all. And when you are able to like so distinctly pull in a client's emotion from their testimonial and you don't have to do that work, oh, beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay. Like it fixes every problem and every weakness that I don't care to fix for myself, basically, you know? Let me check the chat real fast. Annie said such helpful tips and demos. You're so welcome. I love doing these calls, guys. I could sit here and talk for hours if my voice did not hate me today. Matt said, I would love to get sent the email with info on Senja's webinars. Okay, perfect. Matt, are you an affiliate of Senja? Because if not, we should get you signed up. And actually, let me go to that last slide. So if you scan the QR code here, you can sign up to be a Senja affiliate. I'll approve you. And then perfect. So you said, yes, you are. Okay. So check your inbox to see if you got the email yesterday or what's today? Today is Wednesday. Yeah. So I guess it was yesterday. It was titled July 2025 affiliate newsletter, Senja affiliate newsletter. See if that was in there. And if you got it, all you have to do is reply and let me know like what you would want to talk about in one of these calls. And then if you didn't get it, I will make sure like I'll update your email subscriber tag to make sure that you get it. Annie said, what are you looking for in terms of content and speaking content for the paid webinar gigs? So really, we want to know how you're using Senja to move your business forward. So a great example, the webinar, it's not locked in stone, so please don't hold this to me, but 98% sure it's going to happen. But somebody pitched me the idea upcoming in the next like 2-3 months of ways to consolidate your testimonials. So they specifically do a lot of stuff with Google reviews and are starting to migrate away from just everything living in Google reviews because they have multiple areas that testimonials are coming in. And so Senja is the idea of this webinar is that Senja is going to be the like one-stop shop for all of the testimonials. And one of the things thinking about that is like, well, if you have all of your eggs in the Google reviews basket, but Google reviews, or rather your Google page gets shut down or something, you lose all those reviews, right? So how do you kind of turn Senja into the brain operation for all your testimonials? So that's an idea. Somebody also pitched me the idea of incorporating Senja into sales, like basically everything before client offboarding. So how do you incorporate collecting feedback and testimonials like throughout your entire process, throughout your entire customer journey? So just think about that, right? Like what are things that you normally talk about that you normally create content on that have to do with collecting testimonials, with process, things like that. And how can you showcase how you do that in Senja? So yeah, that's what I would say. But obviously, Annie, like if you have ideas and you're not sure, just like ping me. Send me an email, guys. My email is partners@senja.io. So you can always email me. We can brainstorm together. Happy to do that. Okay. So I think that is it in terms of questions. I'm going to stay on for another minute I didn't even talk about upcoming events. So, before we hang up, upcoming events, you can scan the big QR code, which will take us to our Luma calendar with all upcoming events for Senja. But the next event is actually going to be in a week on Tuesday. Ollie and I are hosting our quarterly Senja Town Hall. So this will be your opportunity to learn about all new things Senja, get a little bit of a demo of new things that have come out, ask product questions, that kind of thing. And those will be hosted quarterly. So you can join that call. I believe it will be recorded and sent out. So even if you're interested, but you can't make it, please still RSVP and then you'll get the recording from us. But that is it for today's webinar. Thank you so much for coming. I'll stay on another minute, but if there's no other questions, I will see you in a future call. Oh, Giovanni had a question. Okay, let me answer it. Okay. Okay, we are a Cape Town-based interior design and architecture firm managing complex projects and multiple stakeholders. Our projects typically span 6 to 18 months, and we've struggled to make testimonial collection part of our culture and processes. What's the simplest system to get our project managers and designers bought into testimonial collection, especially when they're focused on delivering the next project milestone? So I feel like I kind of covered that in terms of creating an automated sequence for this. So, is it really the project manager and designer's role to collect that testimonial, or can you create an automated way that just comes from the company to collect those testimonials? And in my opinion, it should be automated. This is something that you can't rely on a human to make sure that it gets done. And why I say that is because you've already talked about this in your question, that, they're focused on the next thing. They're not focused on kind of closing those loops. And so building an automation and email funnel to collect those loops is the easiest way for you to do this and get the data and the testimonials that you want and that you need. And so the way that I do it is my CRM's in Notion. And so when a client's project is done, I just change the status to say project complete, which then triggers their adding them into that sequence. So that's what I would say. That's what I would do. Even if you don't have an email marketing platform, you can do this with Gmail. You can have a status trigger, have a template in Gmail, and just push it through Zapier that it creates the email template and sends it from the project manager's email. I mean, if you want it to be from that person, have it be a trigger through their Gmail account. But I don't think that feedback, testimonials, any type of data collection should be reliant on a human, especially when it is going to move the needle in your business. We love humans. We want hand touch as much as possible, but this is something that, is going to be forward facing and is going to be business development. This is a business development task. And so definitely automate that. That's what I would say. Awesome. Yeah, use Brevo and Buildertrend for CRM and emails. Perfect. Yeah, you can definitely automate that in Make or Zapier. Assuming probably they have webhooks too, depending on kind of how they work. I've never been in those tools, but it's interesting. This is like the third time Brevo's been brought up to me in the last week. And I had before then never heard of that tool in my life. So definitely, you can definitely trigger that as well. Yeah. And even in HubSpot, you can do that in any CRM tool very easily. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. What I mean is, would you recommend expanding your Senja footprint to onboarding? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I used to do a quick, just little after onboarding, when I did more extensive project work, I would just ask at the end of onboarding, can you rate our onboarding sequence 1 to 5, right? How easy was it for you to complete onboarding? It doesn't need to be a fully thought out testimonial right then and there, but to know okay, the UI of our onboarding was really good, because mine, back then, everything was triggered. So it was you signed the contract, then you got redirected to the deposit, then you got redirected to schedule a call, then you got redirected. So it was if somebody accidentally closed a tab, they're going to miss a bunch of things. So you could easily ask, at the end of onboarding with a Senja form, on a scale of 1 to 5, how good was it? So definitely, you can definitely do that for sure. Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to end our workshop here. You can always reach out to me, Senja related partners at partners at senja.io for any specific questions that you have. If it's tech related, you can always reach out to support at senja.io. And then just a little like shameless plug, if you want more operational stuff, if you want to connect more on processes and things like that, you can find me on YouTube. I'm Sarah Loretta on everything, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, etc. And thank you again so much for coming. And I will see you guys in our next call. Right.